Number 10. Speaking of bricks, the practice of sending them to banks or junk mailers was a concept and prank invented by radical Abbie Hoffman, who came up with the idea in his tome Steal This Book during the 1970s. At this time, the postage-guaranteed return envelopes and postcards sent by credit card companies and others were required to be delivered no matter what they were attached to, with the postage paid by the issuer, which could get pretty expensive with a heavy brick. Since that time, the laws have been changed, so these labels cannot be improperly used. This practice is still a method of protest. Recently in England, opponents of the UKIP, UK Independence Party, sent bricks, among other things, in prepaid envelopes, which apparently is still legal there. Number 9. Pneumatic mail tubes could fly under the city at a rate of 100 miles an hour, regardless of snow or traffic snarls overhead. At one time, there were 136 operators in New York City called Rocketeers. They could send one tube every 12 seconds. By the 1950s, 55% of New York City mail was sent by tubes. There were problems, however. Each container could only hold 5 pounds and could not carry more than one kind of mail. The process was expensive, partly because each container needed to be sorted twice. The time saved in shooting the mail through the tubes was lost in sorting and resorting. The system was suspended from 1919 to 1922, briefly resurrected in New York and Boston, and finally discontinued in 1953. Number 8. There's nothing weird, of course, about sending a letter through the mail, but thousands of them anonymously sent to one small town? That's what happened in Circleville, Ohio, starting in 1976. Residents from all walks of life began receiving these strange missives in written block letters accusing them of various misdeeds. It is thought that the writer killed Ron Gillespie, who received a phone call from the writer and went to confront him. Gillespie drove off the road and was found dead nearby with his gun fired once. A man named Paul Freshour was thought to be the culprit and was put behind bars for attempted murder. He denied both charges. Even while he was in solitary, the letters kept coming until the 1990s, and then abruptly stopped. Number 7. When New York jeweler Harry Winston decided to donate the fabled Hope Diamond to the Smithsonian Institution, he chose first-class mail. "It's the safest way to mail gems," Winston was quoted as saying. The delivery from New York City to Washington, D.C. cost Winston $2.44 in postage, and an additional $142.85 for $1 million worth of insurance. Letter carrier James Todd picked up the diamond at City Post Office and drove to the Natural History Building, where he delivered it to the curator. Afterwards, Todd told the Washington Post that he felt a little shaky, not because of the enormous value of the 45.52-carat diamond, but because he wasn't used to getting so much attention at his job. Number 6. A college student ordered a weightlifting bench, but when the package arrived via UPS, there was an additional box, also addressed to him. Thinking it was part of the unit that he ordered, he opened the box, only to find what looked like a drone. He posted the photos to Reddit, and they went viral. It turns out the drone was non-military and used by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. It's not known who sent him the drone. Number 5. In New York City from 1897 up until 1953, mail was sent via a complex series of pneumatic tubes. For the inaugural event, the General Post Office sent a Bible, a large fake peach, and for reasons unknown, a cat. According to one attendee who wrote about it in 1931, the cat seemed dazed but unharmed. Number 4. In 1936, 2 rockets transported mail about 2,000 feet across a frozen lake towards Hewitt, New Jersey from Greenwood Lake, New York. The rockets crash-landed and slid across the ice. The Hewitt postmaster walked onto the ice and dragged the mail bags the rest of the way. The submarine USS Barbaro fired a guided missile with 3,000 letters towards the Naval Air Station in Mayport, Florida. The missile, at 600 miles an hour, covered the 100 miles in 22 minutes. The cost, however, was too great to justify missiles as a standard method of mail delivery. Number 3. In 1916, William H. Coulthard was going to build a brick bank in Vernal, Utah. The bricks he wanted were 127 miles away in Salt Lake City, and he calculated the best way to send them, all 80,000, was via U.S. mail. He had crates packed under the 50-pound limit, 40 at a time, for a total of 40 tons. The Utah Post Office was overwhelmed, but did indeed deliver the entire building. However, it prompted the postmaster to limit the weight one person could send to 200 pounds per day. It is not the intent of the United States Post Office that buildings be shipped through the mail, Postmaster General Burleson wrote. Number 2. This may be the most ingenious escape from slavery ever. Henry Brown claimed to a heavenly vision to mail himself to a place where there were no slaves. On March 29, 1849, Brown tucked himself into a wooden crate with the help of a storekeeper friend, and the 200-pound box was shipped to the Philadelphia home of abolitionist James Miller McKinn 27 hours later. He touted his escape, which caused the Fugitive Slave Act to be passed in 1850. Number 1. The Parcel Post system in the United States began in 1913, and almost immediately people began testing the bounds of what packages could be sent. In mid-January that year, Mr. and Mrs. Jesse Boge of Glen Estee, Ohio, realized it would be cheaper to send their son to visit his grandmother via Parcel Post than buying a standard rail ticket. They paid 15 cents in stamps and insured him for $50. The postmaster quickly outlawed the practice, but people kept skirting the rules, including sending a 14-pound baby to grandma, a popular destination for children it seems. After a peak in 1915, they were finally able to put the kibosh on mailing kids.